got it. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone that's here and everyone that's virtual watching our recording. But this is our August Fort Worth HR Benefits and Compensation Peg, and I am super excited to be here as a co-host. My name is Doris Frencha. I own the Benefit Boutique, and we are an employee benefits brokerage that specializes in the smaller companies with 2 to 50 employees. And my co-host, where did she go? Miss Susan Snipes. We got a lot of people on here today. I can't see. There you go. Hello, my love. You want to say a quick introduction and what you do, and then we're going to then pass it back to me, and we'll get our amazing speaker on the floor.
I will not take up the amazing speaker's time. I'm Susan Snipes. Hi, nice to see you guys, and you can take it back.
All right, perfect. So I'm excited, guys. We have an amazing topic this month. Well, every topic we do is amazing. I think that's why y'all keep coming back. But a very unique, specialized benefits 401k plans presented by my own personal partner, Crystal Roseman. We do everything at the Benefit Boutique, but we don't specialize in it. So we bring on experts, right? And so I've been so excited that she was able to join us this month after we had a change, a transition from this month's speaker. But I'm talking too much as usual. So, Crystal, I'm going to give this floor to you. Okay, wait 1 second. Can everybody go on, turn off your cameras so that we won't have any lagging in the recording. And then when we come back for Q&A, well, I want to see your pretty faces again. Okay. So without further ado, a very important benefit to attract and retain and to make sure your employees have the financial wellness and can retire with dignity. Presented by Crystal Roseman. We're talking about 401ks. All right, this floor is yours, Crystal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Are you able to hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you and see you. And I'm going to go on, turn my camera off. We'll be right here and we'll be manning the chat for you too.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you all for taking some time to talk about this topic. My name is Crystal Roseman. As she stated, I have been a financial advisor for 18 years. So this is the career, the profession, the passion that I have loved for 18 years. And so I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's so important to have this conversation about 401ks and retirement in general, because you guys are the first people that they come to when they start a job. And you make a lot of impact as to the choices that they make and the understanding that they have of benefits. So when we think about benefits, we think about health insurance, PTO, and 401ks. Or retirement accounts. It depends on who you work for, because for counties and cities, it's going to be a 457 or a deferred compensation plan. For the educational and for like teachers in hospitals and medical, that's going to be 403B space. And for everyone else, all the other for-profit companies, it's going to be a 401k. So they're all the same. Essentially, they have a few differences, but the main thing is that they are employer-sponsored retirement plans. And this is so important because what we are facing now is that people are about to retire in the next, 20, 30 years, and they're not going to have any retirement. So this is really a big issue because, we know even now, the people who are retiring now, they don't have much in the way of Social Security. So, pensions were the thing when our parents were growing up and they were going and working for the factories and companies. They had pensions, which were going to be their gold watch and their pension check at the end of their 40 years that they have worked for a company. Well, as you all know, most companies have done away with pensions. So with the exception of governmental entities and the teaching professions, a lot of companies no longer offer pensions. So they have been replaced by 401ks. And 401ks are going to essentially put the control back into the employee's hand. Now, this is good and bad. So let me give you the bad side of this. The bad side is that it puts it back in their hands, but typically they don't know what to do with that. They have no idea how much they should be putting away in a 401k, how much they should be investing. They don't know what to invest in. They don't know when they're able to take it out. They don't know what they can do when they leave a job. So there's so many variables that are unanswered, and that is going to determine what their decision is. And so what happens most of the time? They do nothing. And because they don't know what to do, they do nothing. And you guys who are in HR, you probably get these questions all the time, and you may not fully know and understand how to answer all of these questions either. And I worked with the cities and counties in Fort Worth and beyond. See, exactly. And I worked with them for several years, over 10 years in the retirement space. And so I was one of the people who would come in and have talks with the employees. So I know this firsthand because I work directly with HRs. And I understood that you guys don't have the capacity, and as you shouldn't have to, right? Retirement is a whole different beast, but it is a very important component because you work your whole career to eventually retire. Hopefully you want to retire at some point. So that's going to be very important that you have it set up properly. And even for you guys who are in HR for your own retirement sake, right? To know what you need to do, how you need to do it. And for the companies who don't have 401k or offer any type of retirement, this is going to be very important. The reason why this is important is because the IRS has made some changes, and they are incentivizing things that they want to push as the next narrative, right? So anytime the government wants things to happen, they start providing incentives for what they want to happen. So they incentivize companies and people with tax deductions and tax breaks in order to encourage them to take the action that they want them to take. So they know that, Social Security might be non-existent by the time I retire, or, the millennials be behind me, and Gen Z and Gen X and Gen VYZ. It doesn't even matter at this point. We're running out of the alphabet. But when it comes down to when they retire, there may not be any Social Security there. And because people are not participating in retirement accounts in general, they don't have a pension because those are typically going away. And then they don't have Social Security. So if they do not contribute to an employer-sponsored retirement plan, they are going to be working until they can't work anymore. And then what is going to happen? So the government knows that this is going to be a big issue because the government is going to be looked at as who takes care of them. So what they want you to do is they want to make sure that companies offer a retirement plan. So like I said, it's going to be a 401k generally if it's your company or a company that you work for. Outside of governmental, educational, and medical, it's going to be a 401k. And so for the companies who do not have them, they're incentivizing the companies to add a 401k. And they're incentivizing that by increasing the tax deduction that you get for the expenses that it costs to set up a 401k. So in years past, you got a 50% tax deduction for the expenses of setting up a 401k. But last year, they changed the incentive to 100%, which means that it's 100% deductible for the amount that you pay to set up and establish the retirement account, the 401k account, for the first 3 years. And so it's really showing that they are pushing this narrative because eventually it's going to become mandatory. Now, I know that there has been some changes that have come through the pipeline even more recently that is pushing that narrative along as well. So recently they have ruled that a 401k is going to be mandatory. Now, what they're meaning by this is not saying that everyone has to contribute to a 401k, but what they are saying is that it's mandatory through auto enrollment. So that means that everyone is automatically going to be enrolled as soon as they're eligible. And typically they're going to be eligible when they're hired, or if there is a grace period of 30 to 90 days after that period when they're eligible for benefits, they would be eligible for the 401k as well. So with that, they are basically saying that everyone is automatically going to be enrolled into a 401k unless they decide to opt out. So it is still optional, but they're going to do the auto enrollment. And I have already started helping companies with auto enrollment because it benefits so much. So here's why. Like I stated earlier, most people don't contribute to a 401k or don't know how much to contribute or don't know how to sign up for it. So they don't do anything. So they don't contribute to it. So it's years down the line where they forgot about it and they have no idea. And then they're like, oh, I should have been contributing to my 401k. So auto enrollment solves that problem, because when you first onboard somebody, they're overwhelmed with all the different things that they need to sign up for, right? The first thing they care about is health insurance. So they're like, I don't care about nothing else. I'm going to sign up for the health insurance. I need to understand those plans. The second thing they're going to worry about is the PTO. They're going to, how many days can I stay at home if I don't want to come into work, right? And then the third thing is going to be the 401k, but it's not something that is on the top of their list and the top of their radar. So what they do is they put it off till later, and then later turns into years, and years turns into decades. And then here we are close to a retirement, and they may just be starting up their retirement accounts. And that is going to be a very difficult conversation when they get to retirement and they don't have very much saved up, so they don't have very much to pull from. So the auto enrollment helps alleviate all of that because it automatically enrolls them into the 401k. And so it allows for them to start participating as soon as they're eligible. And the auto enrollment is typically set to 3%. So they're going to contribute at least 3% of their salary into a 401k. The money that they're contributing to the 401k is tax deductible, so they do not get taxed on the portion that goes into their 401k. So for example, if they make $45,000 a year and they put $5,000 into their 401k, they're only taxed on $40,000 worth of income. So it automatically lowers their taxable income as their incentive to contribute to the 401k. So it's going to be an incentive for them, and it's going to be an incentive for the employer. Why is it an incentive for the employer, you ask? Because it is a retention mechanism. The stickier you make your employees, the longer they will stay with you, the harder it is for them to leave, right? So if you offer the things that are important to them and the things that they need, even if they don't know that it's important to them, i.e. retirement, then it allows for them to reconsider when they're thinking about moving around. Because whenever they're looking for jobs, they're going to look at the benefits, and a benefits package typically is not complete without a retirement account attached to it. So if you're not offering a pension, then offering a 401k is going to be very important to help fill in that gap of what they're going to need when they retire. So it allows for them to start contributing into the account, and then they have another sticking point with you as the employer because they don't want to have to move their benefits and change the new employer and figure all that out over again. So adding a benefit like 401k helps with the retention, as well as helps you attract higher quality talent, because we know the smaller the company, usually the lower the pay, but they also can't compete with the benefits packages that some of these larger companies are offering. But that is not an excuse any longer, because it is very simple to set up a 401k account. It does not cost very much, so it's much cheaper than most people anticipate. participate. And again, that cost is 100% deductible for the first 3 years. So it really allows for you to take advantage of it without having to spend extra money in order to set up the 401k that you're not going to get back in a tax deduction. So you want to take advantage when the IRS gives you incentives. You want to take advantage of that, because that is the laying of the foundation of what is to come, which again, they're going to eventually make it mandatory because they know that people need to have retirement. They're not going to be able to work forever. They're going to need to be able to have retirement, and the 401k is the answer to that. But by doing the auto enrollment, it takes the administration burden off of the employer. So all that you guys have to do to set it up is actually do the application, which I help with doing all of that. And then it's a payroll slot, just like everything else. So you get to just put in the amounts. They're already calculated based on what the people sign up for. And then that report is sent to you guys. You guys are able to put in the amount just like you do in any other payroll slot, and you go on about your business. We handle the administration. We handle the questions about the account. So they would be able to call into the 401k company if they have any questions, if they need to change anything. We send them the email to let them know that they're eligible and that their enrollment is starting within the next 30 days so that they have the opportunity to opt out if they choose to. So it does all of these things so that you guys don't have to worry about the administration of any of this. So once you set it up, it's just a payroll slot. So again, there is no reason not to do it, because when it comes down to it, you're helping your employees set up something that is going to benefit them in the long run. So TPAs are, so we help with actually putting all of that together. And it depends on how you're set up as to whether or not you need a TPA solution or if you have an all-in-one solution. I personally like the all-in-one solutions because you don't have to have a separate TPA to go through the paperwork and stuff. It goes directly through the 401k company. But if you prefer a TPA, I'm able to help set that up as well. So it really is up to you, your company, and your preference. But for those of you who don't know, a TPA is a third-party administrator who actually handles like the paperwork. If they're taking a withdrawal, they're taking a loan, anything like that from the 401k, then they're able to send that through a TPA. So yes. So when it's
Hey,
set up,
Krista, I know that you're probably gonna, I want to make sure you address this. Remember, we were having dinner with Part 360, and you made a really good point about how to the business owner about how to formulate the salary, because he was thinking it was going to be a lot more money. But you said something, and I know I understood it, but I can't articulate it, how that it's really not a whole bunch of extra money because it's already counted in the salary. Can you say it better? I know you can. Can you?
no
Do you,
problem.
I'm
So
asking.
yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
what she's talking about is when they enroll into a 401k, there's typically a match component. So all 401ks have a match component in order for it to pass the testing. So the match is what most employers are concerned about because they're like, do I have to pay extra to pay this match out? I'm already paying them a salary, so do I have to pay extra to pay out a match? The answer is it depends on how you want to pay that out. So it does not have to be extra, but it can be if you want it to be an extra incentive. So here's what I mean by that. If there is a 3% match, that means that 3% of their current salary can be reserved to be paid only into the 401k and only if they contribute their required amount. So typically it's between 3 to 5% that they would have to contribute in order to get the 3% match. So what that means is if you're paying somebody $100,000, for example, 97,000 would be paid to them, but 3,000 of that would only be paid in the form of the 401k as a match, which means that they only get that if they contribute their 3 to 5% that is required in order to get the match. So if they don't contribute, they don't get that 3%, which essentially is, it's not a marketing tactic, but it is a savings for the employer, because they don't have to pay that 3% unless the employee puts in their match to get that 3%. So that's where it comes in, where it could actually be a payroll savings for an employer if the employee does not contribute to it. And a lot of employees don't even realize that whenever you go to work for an employer who has a match, if you do not contribute enough to get that match, then you're leaving that percentage on the table. And so with that, it's not extra money that the employer has to pay out. It actually may be a savings if the employee does not contribute to get that match. The other option is that you could do it as an extra incentive. So that 3% could be an extra payout, which would essentially be kind of like an extra bonus for them to incentivize them to pay into their 401k. So what that means is, in that same example, if they make $100,000 and you want to continue paying them the $100,000, but you want to give them the actual 3% as an incentive, then if they contribute their match amount, then they would have to have, they would actually get $103,000, but the other $3,000 would be paid into the 401k, not to them through their paycheck. Okay. So
That's huge. That is so huge to me. Like I said, I do not pretend to be the expert in all benefits. I defer to experts, but that is super huge, especially for a small company. That was a decision, that was a deal maker for our client, because he thought he had to add a whole nother 3% to his entire payroll. That was just mind blowing to me. I know y'all smarter than me, y'all HR people. But I really wanted Crystal to highlight that those options.
yes. And so there's a good question about, could the employee have a litigation issue for having their salary not paid out to them? Essentially, the employer is reducing their income. And the answer to that is no, because the employer has the right to pay out their income in the manner that they have specified. So what I mean by that, when you talk about a 401k or 457 or 403b, it's deferred compensation. That's the actual term for it. It's called deferred compensation. So it means that they're deferring that portion of their compensation into their retirement account. So the way that it's paid out, it can be determined by the employer. It's not reducing their income, it's showing where their income is going. So it is deferring it into a retirement account. So they're still receiving it if they do what they need to do to get it, but they would not be receiving any less unless they did not hit those stipulations. So that's actually a good question, because a lot of people don't realize, when you do sign up for a company that has a 401k and they have that match, that's already written into it. So these are in the rules, the ERISA rules and all of that. So it's covered legally to be able to defer that compensation into a retirement account if you so choose. Now, when you do have a company, you already have employees, this may cause some pushback from those employees, but it is not illegal. There is no litigation that it would cause, because the employer does have the right to pay out that compensation in whatever manner they choose. So even if they do, because it's the same thing as doing like a commission structure or a bonus structure, right? You get to determine as the employer how you want to pay out that compensation. So they're only entitled to it if they meet the qualifications that you have set forth as the employer. So I hope that answers that question for you.
Yeah. And Crystal, this is Holly, and I don't mean to jump in and interrupt, but I just want to say too, I think it's important to mention that their enrollment in a 401k plan, even though you're saying like the 3% is being pushed as a requirement, it's still the auto enrollment piece is what's required. Employees can still say, I don't want to participate in that. And then they have to go take action to remove themselves from the plan, right? But I think what we're hoping is that they are auto enrolled and then it's sort of a set it and forget it. And they don't realize, and it's benefiting them in the long run.
Correct. Yes. And that's what I stated in the beginning. It is mandatory in the sense of the auto enrollment, but they get to opt out if they do not want to participate in the 401k. So and that's also what I said about us sending out the emails. So we send out the email ahead of time to let them know, hey, you are auto enrolled. The deduction will start in the next 30 days and your next payroll cycle, unless you decide to opt out. So they would have to take action to opt out if they did not want to participate. But that is the whole premise, is that people are lazy, right? So if they have to opt into it, they probably won't. And the same thing would happen if they have to opt out of it. They probably won't. So it's a much higher participation rate when you have auto enrollment versus just allowing them to enroll on their own. So that is the way of tricking them into essentially saving for retirement, which is going to be very, very important for them in the long run. So yes, they do have the option of opting out if they do not want to participate, and we do communicate that to them so that they're aware of that. They have communication at the time before that enrollment ever happens, and they can opt out at any time after the enrollment as well. They can't cash out the account while they're still employed there, but they can stop the contributions at any time, and they can restart them at any time as well. Yep. Okay, I'm coming across my time here. So I just want to reiterate that for companies that don't offer the 401k, offering it sooner than later is going to be in your better interest, because for that same reason that I was talking about earlier about the litigation, when you change things on employees, it is a little bit more difficult for them to get on board. But please believe me, do not let that be a deterrent, because for employers, they typically think that that's going to be a deterrent. And every company that I have signed up a 401k for, and they've implemented it after having employees and being in business for several years, their employees did not have any issue with it. So again, they could opt out if they wanted to, and they didn't have to if they did not want to. So they didn't have any pushback. So it is something that the employer may think about, but typically you don't get that pushback from employees, because they do understand that they do need to do something for retirement. They just don't know what to do. So the sooner that you apply it, the better. And again, take advantage of these tax breaks that you get to have it 100% tax deductible, because regulations can change all the time. And if they make it mandatory, which, like I said, they're setting the precedent for that now, to make 401ks mandatory. And if that happens, they may take away the tax break, because it's no longer something that needs to be incentivized. It would be something that would actually need to happen if they mandate it. So be proactive, go ahead and get the tax breaks for setting them up. Be able to also have access to a financial professional for your employees. What I really find in my profession of doing this for so long is that the employees have no one to talk to about financials at all. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they should be doing, and they don't know who to go to for a financial professional. So being able to have access to a financial professional is a huge benefit to the employees, whether they utilize it or not. Just being able to access a financial professional to be able to help them with that is going to be a huge benefit. So yes, so if you guys have any questions, I know my time is up. So Doris, how do you want to take it from
good. You are good. So obviously you're going to put your contact information, your LinkedIn in the chat, just like everyone else is. Go get your LinkedIn profile link so we can drop it in the chat and continue to network and have fun offline. But I am going to obviously send the information in the replay as well. So with that, I'm going to stop the recording so we can have open, candid questions without worrying about the recording. One moment. Thank you so much, Crystal. Hold on.